Hey, and welcome to 20 Minutes Self Development with me, your host, Tam Dillon. This podcast is all about focused, effective self development, specifically for healing practitioners, space holders, and intuitives who want to do the work behind the work. In each episode, I'll introduce you to a key concept, reflection, or tool that's designed to strengthen your inner capacity and support the integrity of your practice. In just 20 minutes, we'll go beyond surface level growth and into the real work that makes you a stronger, steadier, and more embodied practitioner. Let's get into today's episode. So this week we're poking around shadow work. And by golly, does this term get thrown around the spiritual and the self-development spaces? If we could stop using a hashtag, let's stop using this one, because a lot of the time it lacks the true depth of what shadow work is. It really gets talked around a lot, but how much depth are we actually speaking about shadow work? Because it's very easy to reduce shadow work to journaling prompts or noticing your triggers, or just talking about shadow work. But shadow integration is something way deeper, and it's key to resilience and adaptability as a practitioner. As you know, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking a lot about building adaptability, endurance, and resilience. And shadow integration is a big part of that. So let's kick out the word shadow work and let's talk about shadow integration. Okay, let's take shadow work to the next level. Carl Jung was one of the first in Western psychology to really speak clearly about the shadow. For him, the shadow isn't only about the bad and the ugly, the things that we want to repress, but it also includes parts of ourselves that we're just too afraid to own: our strength, our power, our gifts, our creativity, our purpose, heck, even our joy. The shadow is anything that is pushed out of sight. I can't look at that. It's not real. It's too much. It's overwhelming. Shadow, shadow, shadow. All of it. All of it is just shadow. Anything that we shove out the way and pretend like it doesn't exist is shadow. And the reason it matters, the reason why shadow integration is so important is that just because we're burying it doesn't mean it's going to disappear, okay? Your shadow does not decompose, okay? You can dig 6 feet down and bury it for 1,000 years. You dig 6 feet up again, it's still going to be there and be like, what's up? You ready to deal with me now? Okay. Just because we burying it doesn't mean it's going to go away. In fact, it's gonna pop up out the soil and show up in your projections. It's gonna show up in the way that you're reacting with clients, or heck, just everyday life, friends, family, the world around you. It'll show up in the exhaustion when triggered by things we don't even realize are living inside of us because we tried really hard to just dig deep and bury it in the soil. And this right here is where resilience comes in. If you can face your shadow, you can name it, you can integrate it, and you're way less likely to project it on someone else. You're less likely to collapse into overwhelm when a client brings something that's really heavy, and they're going to. You've with shadow integration, you building the capacity to recognize shadow, recognize heaviness, and you already know how to work with it. You already know how to integrate it. That means you can stand far steadier, even in those really heavy, intense sessions which we're all going to get them because we've got the capacity for it. We just need to learn the skills for the capacity. Jung's teaching on projection is one of the most useful here. He said that what we dislike most in others often points to something unresolved in ourselves. If we catch ourselves saying, I just can't stand people who are selfish. I just can't stand people who are angry. I really dislike this type of person. These type of words really annoy me. It really is worth pausing to ask, where does that live in me? Because until we can own those parts, they're going to own us. Okay, again, just because it's 6 feet down in the soil doesn't mean it can't pop its head out and be like, hey, I'm going to cause some chaos in your life. And this isn't unique to Jung either. You see echoes of shadow work in spiritual traditions worldwide. Shadow work, shadow integration, it really is a cross-cultural, cross-traditional topic. In Buddhism, practitioners meditate not only on compassion and light, but also on death and impermanence, learning not to turn away from suffering. In fact, the Buddha is known to say all existence is suffering. Like, he acknowledges that. Yogic philosophy, you're taught to acknowledge the suffering, the dark, the heavy, because if you don't, it's still going to be there. Just because you ignore your neighbor doesn't mean your neighbor's going to miraculously just move out of their house overnight. Like, you get up in the morning and stand on your front porch drinking your coffee, your neighbor's still going to be there in that house. Okay. In Sufism, dervishes world, not because they're trying to escape the world, but because they're looking to turn fully into it. They're looking to immerse themselves in it. Light and dark together, among indigenous cultures, of vision quests, often brought initiates face to face with their fears. And I don't mean just oh, there's a mouse, that's scary. Like your fear, okay, like getting deep, dark, and dirty inside there. And these cultures, every one of these things were done to build strength, to build endurance, to build resilience, to build adaptability, because every culture has known that part of building true strength is facing the shadow. Now you look across cultures. Come and challenge me. Be like, Tam, here's a culture. Show me where they, they do the shadow integration. I would love to have that conversation, because from what I've seen and what I've studied and the conversations that I've had, absolutely, shadow integration, you've got to do it. It's a part of us, and it's a part of the very world that we live in. Light and dark are always going to be there, and every culture has known this, and all these traditions teach us that. And they don't just teach us that. They're not just like, hey, there's, the boogeyman lives in your cupboard, cool. They tell you how to deal with the boogeyman in your cupboard. Okay, so it's not like, cool, the shadow exists, okay, bye. The traditions, they teach us how to deal with the shadow and how to integrate the shadow. None of them talk about suppression or throwing it away. It's always about the integration of it. And here's something that I really feel is important. Your shadow work isn't just personal. It's not about doing your own personal shadow work. As practitioners, we can't avoid our own shadow, absolutely, but we also can't ignore the shadow of the world either. If we refusing to look at what's happening globally, what's happening Right now in the present moment, the wars, the violence, the prejudice, the systemic injustice, then when clients come to us carrying those realities, because they're realities here in the present moment, we won't be able to hold them fully. Their shadow is shaped by the world's shadow. Our shadow is shaped by the world's shadow. And if we bury our heads in the sand to the world shadow, so we're all like, cool, I'm going to do my own shadow work, but you got to do the world shadow work too, and integrate the world shadow and understand the world shadow, because if we don't and we do bury our heads, we're going to miss what the people that come to us for our medicine, we're going to miss what it is that they're actually carrying. So true shadow integration is not just about integrating your own shadow, but about understanding the world's shadow. And here I'm not like, cool, go and immerse yourself in 24/7 news. Like, please don't do that. like, no, you don't need to plug into toxicity. You don't need to plug into heaviness. But don't turn a blind eye and don't shy away from the shadow of the world. Don't shy away from the atrocities of the world. Don't get up and go to your 9 to 5 and be like, this is my bubble. Because as practitioners, we're handed a responsibility and a calling, and it's on us to honor that responsibility. And absolutely, just because we're handed a calling doesn't mean that we have to answer the calling. There is absolutely still choice. And I get it. It's heavy to do this kind of work. It's heavy to integrate your shadow. Never mind trying to integrate the shadow of the world. It's big, but it's necessary. And there are ways to do it that is healthy without rabbit holing and getting stuck and getting immersed in it, letting it weigh you down, letting it make you feel heavy, because then you can't be of service either. So it's about that integration aspect. So shadow integration is twofold. It really is. It's doing our inner work so we don't project or collapse. And it's also acknowledging the world's shadows so that we can meet our clients where they're actually coming from. And again, I say we don't immerse ourselves in every headline. We don't have to climb into mainstream news and what's happening in the world today, what devastation is going on. But we also don't deny what's happening. Balance is everything. Balance really is key. And this is where again that ability for being adaptable, adaptation is key to shadow integration. And when we integrate our shadow, we become more adaptable. So we need to allow ourselves to be adaptable to integrate the shadow. And the great thing about integrating is it helps us to become more adaptable, because we learn to move between severity and mercy, between clarity and compassion. We know when to speak hard truths and we know when to hold silence. We know when to step back and let someone walk their own path and when to walk alongside them. That's endurance, that's resilience, that's adaptability. So if you're serious about your calling as a healer, a teacher, or a guide, if you're like, hey, yes, I wanna be answering the call, the shadow work's not optional. It's one of the classes for universal admission into being a medicine person. You got to do the shadow work. You got to do the shadow integration that comes with the shadow work. Okay, so it's not just like whipping out your shadow journal and being like, okay, let's work on my prompts today. Like, yes, those are tools to help you climb into your shadow and understand your shadow, but you still need to do the integration aspect, because this is this is what's going to form the ground beneath your feet. This is what's going to give you that stability. It's what makes you steady enough to keep going, because the world's always going to carry shadow of some kind. And your clients are going to carry shadow of some kind. And the question is, can you face it? Will you face it? Do you want to face it? Or will you let it run you away, like make you run in the opposite direction? And it's okay to be honest here. And this is where the dangers of whitewashed, glamorized spirituality and spiritual practices and traditions and modalities. This is where it's harmful, because it portrays just the one side of us, and then we're all like, oh, let's do our shadow work. But, are you ready? Are you really doing your shadow work, or are you just doing the whitewashed version of us? And like, be honest, as an actual space holder, as someone who is called to the path of being a medicine person, a healer, a guide, or a teacher, you need to have the capacities for these things. It's all very well being, I want to make the world better. I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. Understand that it takes things like shadow integration, acknowledging the things that you want to make better. So here's the point where you ask yourself, as a gifted practitioner, you really ask the question, am I built for this? Do I want to allow myself to be built for this? Because you absolutely can build yourself for this. Or do I want to just kind of, maybe not do this? And it's good to be honest with yourself, because if you look at the bigger implications of the position that you're holding as a practitioner, and the full scope of what the realms in which you are working with that other person, you've got to accept the full scope of your responsibility. And if you want to build these skills, because these absolutely are skills that you can build for yourself, they're not skills that you're going to work overnight, and you're not going to get it through just doing journaling prompts either. But if you're serious about it, these are skills that you want to build. If you want to practice shadow work in a way that's going to strengthen your resilience and adaptability, this is exactly what I focus on in my mentoring. This is what I help practitioners with. These are the kinds of skills and tools that I help you cultivate. You really don't have to do this alone. I do understand the heaviness that can come with saying, okay, I'm going to step onto the path, I'm going to answer my calling. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of responsibility. Because it's responsibility on different levels, and shadow work and shadow integration are just two of those responsibilities of being a fully immersed medicine person. And honestly, the more of us who integrate our shadows, and the more of us that have the capacity to integrate the shadow of the world around us, the stronger our medicine is going to become. Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of 20-Minute Self-Development. If today's reflections were helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, where we'll explore another tool or principle to support you in doing your own work as a healing practitioner. If you're looking for deeper support, my practitioner mentoring sessions are designed to help you refine your presence, integrate your self-work, and build a practice that's both ethical and sustainable. You can also visit the Tam Dillon Academy to explore all current programs and resources built specifically for space holders like you. Until next time, keep showing up for your own work, and remember, real growth is built on consistency, integrity, and self-responsibility.